metaphor for a predator. Been to the Mediterranean, on my papers like an editor. I flow like a reservoir dog, rap Tarantino, off the chain like Django. Still let the chain glow, where they bang no. And niggas get shot like camera angles. In rap videos, put up on Vimeo. I wear the buck 50 bicentennial, perennial, all-star. Fruit that don't fall far from Islam.
We're here every Monday in this jurisdiction, the Manhattan jurisdiction. Mondays usually from 7 to about 9, we are discussing the things that we are doing here in the Aboriginal Republic of North America and the International Indigenous Society. Our focus is indigenous government, government for our people in the sense of we as a people, if you study our political history, our lawful or legal history and nationality, since the so-called Civil War, have never resolved a vital issue that has affected us in economics, socially, it's affected our families, it's affected a number of areas, and as the brother just elated to us, or enlightened us, excuse me, we have been positioned into entities that have caused us adverse things to happen to us. And we are walking around in this belief system that we are accomplishing great things, and some of us maybe as individuals are accomplishing what we think we should accomplish. But as a group, the so-called African American is in a very, very challenging position, and they're not the only ones. We find at a greater level that the United States and its functions in foreign policy and its current political functions are causing a great harm to indigenous peoples, not only here in the Americas, but in Africa, the Pacific Islands. And our position in that is vital. It's almost like a karmic lesson, if you want to use that terminology, in that we have the ability to do a lot of things to change how these tentacles are affecting a lot of people. That's the macro. And you bring that down to the micro, you see the same symptomatic issues going on in families, individual lives, and community. And that symptomatic issue is what I want to talk about tonight. We want to talk about health. One of the 4 areas that we discuss when we come in: health, law, economics, and our heritage. So any night that you come, we'll be discussing one of those 4 areas. And I, myself, or another minister will be carrying on that class. Do we have any markers? I gotta get some markers so I can write. Just some contact information for you. Please contact me. 2 websites. The first one is indigenousgovernment.org. Government.org. Here we go. All right, main contact. 2 main contacts. Indigenousgovernment.org and a new website we're using to discontinue the use of the NING network, if you've been on there, so that we can just have a better interface. All right, any one of those 2 websites, you can contact us via emails, phone numbers, updated phone numbers and stuff on that website. All right, governmentreparations.org. All right. So how many people have been to this class and heard something about nationality and political status and those things? Pretty much you heard about it. All right. So if you could come up here, I had an opportunity to come up here, how many of you could come up here and maybe talk for about 5 minutes on nationality? Just basic of what you learned. Raise your hand. Just one person. Okay. All right. That's not good. If you've been in class more than, let's say, 4 or 5 times, you should be able to come up for 5 minutes and just elucidate some basic things. Maybe not do it like, some of the ministers do it, but you should be able to elucidate. How many people have been to an economics class before that we've had? Financial recovery, explaining the framework of economics, how municipal government is run, bonds. You've heard that before, right? Okay, good. How many people have come to a class where we discussed health before? Like biology, what foods to eat, veganism, fruitarianism, vegetarianism, you've been before. All right. Great. I'm just trying to get an idea, so as I go into some topics, I don't want to lose anybody in here. We want to stay with the practicality of being able to go home and use the information. But all of what we teach, we strive to keep it within our value system. And the value system that we have as indigenous peoples is that non-indigenous peoples came and created an injury at a historical point in what we are calling Africa and America today. And we are the indigenous peoples who suffered the infliction of that assault, political, etc. And now our systems are disorganized from the successful systems that we used to be in. So we have two things to measure. We have to see whether the systems and institutions that we are being offered in the longevity of it, short term or long term, are for our success. If they are for our success, the ones that are, we can keep them. If they're not for our success, we have to reevaluate them and see what we can do about it. Now, our position is we have to do something about it in the sense of organizing around governing ourselves with some level of autonomy in every area of our life, because our study has proven that the Europeans who are trying to call themselves Americans now are pretty much an abomination as far as their interface with us. It doesn't mean we have to hate anybody, call anybody names, do those things, but I'm talking about group-to-group interaction and the expectation that we should not be ourselves, and if we strive to be ourselves, we get placed in columns in society. You're not meeting up to the mainstream of the status quo. We're going to call you a name. We're going to label you. We're going to identify you as a dissident. We're going to have Monsanto people following you because you're talking about, agribusiness amongst biotechnology companies, whatever it be. We've seen these types of things go on, not only amongst indigenous people, but non-indigenous people. And our focus is how can we get into empowerment, re-empowerment. So we operate nationality as a methodology to socio-politically address issues. And our goal is to get you into very basic operations so that you can improve your economics, improve your social life, improve your health, improve these areas. And as you improve them and stay connected to the group, you become an asset as opposed to a group liability. If you understand what I'm saying, a group liability is someone who's a knucklehead, smoking weed, hurting the larger group, running around making babies, not taking care of. That's a liability. An asset is a mature man who's taking care of his family, who is contributing to his community, etc., growing his children up, and woman, and, the children as well. So that's the line, that's the cultural line that we're drawing. So when we come and talk about these things that we're going to talk about, we're talking about the things that are producing the children that don't become assets, they become liabilities. Or the fact that you could be producing a liability and don't know it. All right? So in walks the conversation of health. And when we talk about health, to said people of African descent, Moorish descent, Indigenous descent, whatever title you want to use for yourself, we have a complex problem. The institutions that predominate providing education and services to our people are owned, controlled, bond certified by white males. And because they have, from the beginning, had a socio-political interest in building wealth off of the enslavement, ignorance, kidnapping, etc. of people of our lineage, then we are in an adverse situation because they will continue to do that until we can stop it. New education, new actions. All right? And know and understand that white folks in the laboratories, as far as what I'm going to talk about in the next few minutes, know you very well. To the point that they can chemically manipulate you into certain psychosis to behave a certain way so that they get the socio, political, economic benefit off of that behavior. All right? They can start your children to death, then riddle them and Prozac them to death. Then jail them. From birth, a slave, all the way up into adulthood. Working for various corporations and multinational corporations, doing stuff not to contribute to your community or your genetic pool or your race or whatever you want to call it, but contributing to outsiders. And that is by design. It's not a haphazard event. So when you see crime going on, a lot of times when we look at what's going on in society, we don't take a mature approach to it and understand that that was by design. Crime is by design. Cities need crime in order to make money because they need indictments. Indictments pay the bills. So when you see politicians saying they want to stop crime, they're saying they want to be in a budget deficit. You follow me? And they don't, because they're always talking about not being in a deficit, right? So you get these type of oxymoronic things going on, and they appear oxymoronic only because we don't know the underlayers of what's going on. So if we knew the underlayers of municipal government, we wouldn't even pay attention to Stop the Crime Initiative. Right? We'll pay attention to Stop and Frisk and see what it's really about. So this class is about learning your rights, and rights means power. You have no rights when you have no power to enforce them. Got that? That it must be understood, because some people think that you can just use pieces of paper to get rights. And that's one methodology, a part of a whole schematic to acquire the full power and rights. So as we're having this conversation, I want you to have the conversation with yourself. Because any one of us who come to talk about problems on the outside, we may be contributing to those problems without knowledge. We may be contributing to it, all right? So this is not, our point is, this is not an external discussion about melanin. This is an internal discussion about you. That's what it is. Some of us are going to leave here, and somebody's going to stop by White Castle. You still got those in New York? Burger King. You got a little soy burger in your jacket. Hide. You smell it. Or some people think this conversation, oh brother, you're just going off and you're under this new vegan thing started by white people, and black people have been eating meat for thousands of years. You know, you get all kinds of conversations. But everything in this universe is testable. I mean, you can test it and get a result. All right? So look at all those ancient empires. If you want to find out on the walls whether they ate flesh, and that's one component of what made them fall, we need to look at it. Because there is no more ancient Egypt. I don't care how many locks Shaka Amos put in his head, Kemet is gone. And it's my brother, I love him to death. Sinai can post videos to the end of time. There is no more Kemet. Y'all got that? White people shut that down. Greco-Romans. It collapsed. Persians. And if it collapsed, it became susceptible. We could talk all the Moorish navigation that we want. It collapsed. Taj Tariq make it wear 1,000 fences. That's my elder and my brother, but it don't matter. None of that. We can come in, everybody try to get everybody. Islam 187. It collapsed. How did it collapse? See, mature people study history to find out what happened. And if that's our lineage, then we're doing it because we don't want to make the same mistakes. So there's a short history we can study. You know, we can study the history of Noble Drew Ali and Elijah Muhammad and others, and then we can study more ancient history. But the best study is ourselves, and we know we're addicted to certain things to our detriment. Have you ever ate something when you become a little bit more aware and you just have a bad day? It's something you're not supposed to eat. And you say, well, why am I having such a bad day? And then you reflect upon it. Look at what I ate. Anybody ever happened to anybody? It happened to me before. Yeah, you could trace that factor. It could be other factors, stress and other things, but that factor contributes to it. All right? So a big part of us imploring and implementing the discipline that we need in a hostile environment so that we could be successful is to test ourselves by a very large habit that we have, which is eating. Eating is it's a good habit. We need it, right? But if we're doing things that are against ourselves and we want to implement better discipline, what better way than to test ourselves by not doing those things? All right? And the success and the truth about who you are is not what you're doing when everybody's watching. It's when nobody's watching. You know what I mean? We can come in here and we can talk about how much we eat, whatever. But what do you eat when you're not here? When you're at home by yourself, doors locked, no Aboriginal nationals that point fingers at you. What do you do? So that's a big part of what we're going to talk about, the discipline of eating. Now, how many people eat 3 meals a day? How many people eat about 2 meals a day? How many people eat 1 meal a day? Okay, yeah, very little. All right, so if you had experience with all 3, you probably stopped eating so much because you found out it wasn't as good to just keep piling stuff in your mouth, because you have to keep working your what? Digestive system. Digestive system is overworked, all kinds of problems. Acid reflux, can't digest stuff, gastrointestinal pains, all kinds of problems can develop by being greedy. All right? Greed is an emotional ailment, which comes from a lack of balance and discipline. If you are that type of person, greed. That's not the only dimension in your life where you're greedy at. That's just a symptomatic aspect showing you that lack of discipline in that field, and it exists in other fields. My point is, you can't fool us today. No one can fool anybody. And this is how we want to approach the community. We want to get so much education out to the people, so much clarity. I mean, diagnostics looking at your face and telling what's wrong, that nobody can lie. And if you take human beings to that level of potential of education, what it does in society is it forces honesty. So that's our goal. Our goal is to take education to that level so nobody can lie. A big part of what we are discussing is white people have been lying. And they're the best liars. And their lies have been media-driven, psychologically driven into the minds of so many people that people respond to their mythology. And a big part of their mythology is hatred for the African American, so-called African American. White folks in America have done an excellent job at subconsciously and consciously creating hate in non-indigenous people or people who are coming over from other places, and even amongst ourselves, making us hate each other. Yeah, it's been how many people can clap their hands and say amen or amen ra or whatever you want to say to that? That white folks have done a good job creating self-hate amongst that. Now, how have they done it? How have they done it? They made you leave your culture, right? They didn't make you, but they created the circumstances, right? Fed you soul food or the standard American diet, poison your mind with false education, and said, you free, go behave now. So now with misconstrued information, poor diets, and lack of systematic way how to arrange your life, you go out and you just a toy soldier slave. So your aspirations won't even reach deep enough for you to do what you were naturally born to do. You just want a job for 50 years and get your retirement. Not understanding that each one of us is here to do something very special that nobody else can do. But in order to peak that type of potential, you have to have a certain type of lifestyle. So let's go through some of this. I don't want to bore you, I just wanted to introduce you. This study, we're doing a 6-month study now, and I came tonight to lay down some facts if you have started, to help you move through. And what is this study about? First of all, if you haven't taken a test, some of you took a test with me about a month and a half ago or 2 months ago. If you haven't taken the test, I don't have the machinery or the time to diagnose you tonight, but here's what I can do. because we have a course curriculum, some of you have seen it, the Aboriginal Health course curriculum, I don't need to hook you up to the machine. If you want to take this 6-month study, take this email down, and this is what I need you to email me. I need you, in this instance, to email me your birth name, and if you've changed it or corrected it, your Indigenous name. The reason why I'm asking for that is because I do things with the birth name to find out more about your psychological characteristics, and it helps me when I'm doing what I'm going to do, what I'm about to lay down. I need your full birthday, and I need the location that you were born in, the city and state. If it's outside of, say, the United States of America, please give me that too. You can email this to this email, and I'll include you with the rest of the people that I did the diagnostics with using the quantum magnetic analyzer. And, excuse me? That's Amaru, AMARUXIALI AmaruShiali@gmail.com. And that's the email you're going to send it to. And what you're sending me is your birth name, and if you've changed it to another name, give me that name too, your birth date, and the location, city and state that you were born in. If you're born outside the United States of America geographically, then you can give me that location as well. And I can use that information to do a chart reading on your biology. We have the ability to do that. All right? And some of you who've taken the course know about that. All right, so that helps solve that issue. Issue is, what are we proposing? We're proposing that we've never been taught the right foods to eat. That's what we're proposing. We're also proposing that we're in a predicament that we have to adjust to try to get the right things inside of our body to keep some health going on in the body, proper health. We're also proposing that Europeans have been studying this stuff called melanin, and that in their study of melanin, they found out how to biologically neutralize us as a people. When I say neutralize, I mean neutralize your intelligence, your power. And as I explain what melanin is, you'll see why I'm saying it. And in their discovery of how to neutralize melanin, they've used the food industry and other mechanisms to implore this neutralization. And they know that they're neutralizing melanin. They know that. It's not like they don't know and it's secondhand. They're consciously inducing these particular things. And this has spilled over into health practitioners amongst our people who are imploring us to eat healthier and other things, but they're making drastic mistakes by default imploring things that they have not experimented on enough to get the data to produce the information. So we're doing the study, not because we don't have the information, we're doing the study in a methodology that is kind of in agreement with Western science as far as the methodology, so that when we publish it, we'll have all the data we need to prove, a lot of points. One of the points that we're going to prove is, if you're not in the tropics, there are certain foods that you're eating that you need to stop eating. Right? If you're in the tropics, or ever have a chance to get there, because of the way that plants respond in the tropics, is less dangerous for certain foods and absolutely not dangerous for other foods. Right? But we live here in North America. And this is not a tropical area unless you live in Florida. So, because most of us are eating domesticated plants, there are things that are done to those domesticated plants that are melanin neutralizers, health neutralizers. And it could be, some kale. It doesn't matter. It can still adversely affect you if you don't know how to make adjustments and transitions. Or if you're going to eat those particular things because of necessity, that you don't do some of the things that we recommend tonight. Okay? All right, so We're doing a 6-month study, and the 6-month study is on different types of diets, but there are levels to it, 7 classifications that we're dealing with. The top classification is those who are only eating the pulp of fruit, which is pure carbohydrates, with what we call no nitrogen in the diet. Our thesis is that in North America and places outside of the equatorial belt, that is the best diet. That will have 0 adverse effect on you, which means you will never get sick. Not only will you never get sick, you will stabilize your melanin to a point where you will have not only working in, underdrive where you're trying to solve problems with health, but if you have people that come to you that have health disparities, you can use this dietary method to cure any biological ailment. That is in indigenous people, specifically. All right? Class B diet is if you're eating fruits and vegetables. All right? But the vegetables or the vegetation here, outside of the equatorial belt, especially the domesticated vegetables, are high in amines, right, or nitrogen, because of how they're fertilized or genetic modification, and because the nitrogenous gases envelop above and below the 23-degree belt because of the level of UVB, they're pushed. Nitrogen is the gas that doesn't like sunlight, so it pushes itself towards the poles. Okay? So, if you're eating vegetation in those areas, we're going to talk about some vegetation that's safe, some vegetation that's not safe. And we're going to prove that tropical plants do not go through what's called nitrogen induction. Nitrogen induction is when plant groups take up nitrogen from the soil or from the atmosphere. Tropical plants do not do that. All right? Plants that are domesticated or outside of the equatorial belt do that. And then with that, what we'll prove is melanin, which is in plants as well. We'll give a better idea what melanin is than probably what you have. Plants and in the human body, the goal of melanin is to act as your immune system. It's the real immune system along with the lymphatics and the electrical charge in the body. So what it does is it attaches itself to things to remove them out of the body. So if I say tonight, vitamins are toxins, the average person will say, nigga, you crazy. What are you talking about? But vitamins, vital amines, are amines that are attached to carboxylases, or carbon compounds. And the carbon compounds attach to them and take them into the liver to be excreted through what you call the urea cycle. So you urinate them out, or you defecate out. So when scientists go and find that vitamins are made in the liver, they think that vitamins are being assimilated into the liver to be disseminated for nutrition for the body, but they don't realize that that is only for people who are outside of certain genetic classifications. And then what they do know that the doctors aren't talking to the geneticists enough who do these studies, who are publishing them. And the doctors don't want to talk to them anyway, some of the ones who do know, because that's going to affect the markets that support them, which are pharmaceuticals and people who are selling these things. So look up the word vital amines. Vital amines were found by this Polish scientist. And if you look at the places where these things are found, then you can see that they're coming from toxic or hybrid plants. All right? And the vitamins that you're getting, if you look at you look at something like some soy milk or something, vitamin A, vitamin B, those are all made from petroleum. Those are not even made from plants. All right? If you're on social media, I posted from the books and the books that you can get to show how vitamin compounds are made in labs and placed into food, and then you get a label, oh, I need some vitamin C. And the juice says vitamin C, and you think that vitamin C came from a plant, when plants don't make vitamin C. Only time plants make vitamin C is to attach carbon compounds in it to get it outside of the plant, because they know the vitamins are toxins. I might sound crazy right now to you, but you're going to have to study to stay up. All right? The body and plants only want minerals. All right? Carbon, iron, these things, calcium. All right? And the compounds of those things. That's what, plants and people want. They want mineral compounds. They don't want vitamins. And those are two different things. I don't want you to get confused with that. Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Minerals, like they have a Salt Lake City have a bed of minerals, and then they also have peat moss. So I saw this in the environment camp, and I was like, peat moss. I said, I can't take this.
That's in moss. Mosses are non-porous parts of trees, and they're basically like dried sweat. So you don't want to eat those particular things that are on trees. The moss is off the trees. You don't want to eat ground trees. I'm going to take a few questions, but I want to come to this so I can get into some of this. Go ahead, man.
No, I was just asking about salt. I hear so many things about salt. And I know the earth is surrounded by salt, and they said that your cell have a salt and a fresh water.
Yeah, salt is just a code word for minerals. That's all. I mean, it's become commercial now to sell salt, and the selling of salt started amongst our civilizations, and that was for preservation of certain things. Go ahead.
No, what I was saying is that I see they do some tests with salt and sugar, with the electricity. And when they put the electrical stuff in it, they see the salt light it up. When they put it in thing that is sweet, there's no electricity. So that's why I asked the question about the salt.
Right. So studies like that, they only work if you're using the salt or the sugar for a technology mechanism. If you're using them in vivo in a body, that study means nothing. And the reason why a study means nothing is because it's outside of the body. You see what I'm saying? So it's outside of the body's magnetic field, it's outside of water. So the study can't be applied as far as that is concerned. Inside of the body. When you're dealing with stuff in vivo, it takes on a whole different thing, and which is a part of the reason why we're kind of confused about health things. But if you have questions, just save them for a minute. I'm going to go through some of this. All right, so in ancient times, there was this fascination with skin and color of skin and what we could call melanin. We'll call it melanin now. They didn't use that term. That's a Greek term. But they had words for it, all right? All right, so the Moors called it hamiyat, hama. The Egyptians called it kimwar, the color of your skin. Here you have a statue of King Tut, all right, representing him as the Lord or the God of the underworld, who was a Tsar. And here you have a Tsar, or some people say he's representing a vegetation god here, all right? He's not representing a vegetation god, and you have to understand history of why people were painted black and green. And then you go to the linguistics of the Afro-Asiatic languages, and what you'll find is that the word green and black was the same. Like if you said it from said language of Islam, it would be Akdar or Kida. And Kida means black and green. But the only reason that green and black were associated is because of what they represented biologically. And they represented biologically in organisms carbon and copper, which are the constituent minerals for building carbon compounds that we call melanin. Right? So the fascination with skin was very complex in history. You can go all the way to India, and they have something called Vishvarupa. Vishvarupa was Rama when he was all black. Okay? You can go to Mesoamerica and Kukulkan. Kukulkan, you'll see him in the feathers with all black skin. All right? And often when linguistics translated, they'll say that he represents the god of the dead. This one was the god of the dead. This one was the god of this. And actually, when you read the text, and the Indian texts are translated by Europeans, it was a sign of immortality. It was a sign of defeating death. All right? So that's a long, complex conversation within itself to go to these texts and find those things, but it's there for us to see. All right, so here are some of the books that I purchased on melanin. These books right here cost about $500 a piece. But the beautiful thing about these books is you can read all about melanin, and they study in all kinds of things about melanin, even in people. But inside of the books, these and other books, they'll always have one disclaimer. And the disclaimer is that they'll tell you is that we don't know what melanin actually is. Yeah, 500 pages to tell you that they don't know. But we're studying what it is. We don't know exactly what it is or how it's made, but we're trying to figure it out. We're using spores, bacteria, organisms, and humans to study this stuff. And let's give you some sources on it so you don't call me a liar. I have this in this book right here. This is the latest studies. So you got to go from about 2005 to now if you want to keep up with the data. But here's a quote, all right, from an article from 3 major scientists. Write these names down or screenshot them or take a picture of them. The melanins are an important class of multifunctional biomacromolecules with fascinating and potentially useful electronic and optoelectric properties. They are one of the last major biomacromolecular systems where we do not know how the constituent molecules organize. This knowledge gap hinders attempts to map their properties and function and is a particular issue in understanding their roles in human photoprotection and melanoma cancer. So, my message to the black health people. When you come up and say, you Google, right, and you say this is how melanin is made, you're not taking from the scientists who are studying biochemistry, you're taking from people from Wikipedia and Google. This is important because you have black teachers saying that this is important for concept, because when concepts come to you, they're vibrations. And we take those concepts and we operate. Saying that melanin is made from amino acids. And then what happens? People say, they listen to these teachers and they say, well, I need to keep my amino acid base up. And you start going and buying supplements with amino acids in them. And you're making yourself sick. And I can prove it. You don't have to do 6 months. Me 7 days on my diet, you 7 days on your amino-based diet. I guarantee you'll be sick. Only amino acid-based stuff. I don't want you eating nothing, only stuff with amines. Because they tell you that the human body has 22 amines, all right, 22 amino acids that you need. Some of them you already have, some of them you don't have, and they have to be a part of your diet because these make up the proteins and you have to get proteins. Then, some folk who are less educated will start talking about vitamins and proteins from plants without footnotes of explanation. All right? There is something you're getting from plants, but to call it a protein is to violate science. For now, I'll say if you need what you think is protein, you can get it from plants. But calling it a protein is not good when you start getting into the technicality, because a protein means it's amine-based. And wild plants or heirloom-based plants they have carbon compounds. They're not protein-based in that sense. So check this out. So these folks tell you they don't know what melanin is. Now we know from looking at our skin, real basic stuff, melanin gives you some hue, right? Different levels of hue. And then when you look at humanity, you say, wow, you go from Nordic pale to jet black Sudan, right? And you say, okay, well, that's how humans were just made, naturally, right? Wrong. Wrong. Nobody is supposed to have pale skin on this planet. And if you do have pale skin, your lineage is not going to last unless you try to get back into with us. You're not going to last. It's not, I don't hate you. I hope you have a successful temporary life. But you weren't made to be on this planet perpetually like we were. We are. Now, we need to understand that scientifically without name calling and racism, whatever the stuff they'll make up something. They'll just put me on CNN and blast. Don't listen to him because he's racist. But this is science. So now you know what this is. They're calling it melanin, and it's a compound. And the key point is its photoreceptivity, because now you're dealing with sunlight. And if you want to know how it's made, look, let's not go in the labs yet. Let's just go to the beach and sit out in the sun and do some 101. You get darker when you go to the beach, right? If you have really pale skin, you get this red haze on you, like a burn. They call it, the scientific name for what's happening to the cells is sunburned cells. These are what the generic term is used in all of the studies. So you're not getting burned, you're getting more melanin. Now, that's the indication that you should be blacker anyway. Got it? Because you have genetic structures that want what you just got from that sun, but you're not getting enough of it. And if you were getting enough of it, you would be darker. But your gene structure is made for you to be jet black with a blue haze. That's how you're supposed to look. And anything other than that is levels of sickness. Now, we do have internal melanin. Sometimes you can have less external melanin and more internal melanin. All right? And that's a reason, and that's also a malfunction. So I'm talking to us to let us know that we represent kind of like a fall of our ancestors, and we're trying to climb back. Got it? All right? And it's important to note, I'm going to make this point clear, that every time we rediscovered what we knew about melanin, cosmically and Earth, we came back into power with these hybrids on the planet. Every time we realized it and began to know how to organize society based on that, we came back into power. You study the Islamic and the Moorish civilizations, at the bedrock of their theology or cosmology was the study of melanin. I got the proof. I'm about to show you. And when they understood it and learned what it was and how to compartmentalize it into their societal structures, the study of it and the reality of it, they came into power. When white folks discovered what it was and made us forget, they came into power. This is important. Now, goes back to the question. If they don't know what melanin is, and we have it, and we know what can induce it, right? Sunlight. What is it? What is it? Let's just use our intuitive minds for a second and put down all these goddamn books. If it's receptive to light, that means it can absorb light. Now, when you have something that can absorb something else, there's in science what you call self-similarity. That self-similarity has to exist molecularly, atomically, and quantumly. Got it? So there's a part of you that is descended from the sun. Got it? You're stardust. All right? So to make the sun an ancestor was a part of a cultural dynamic to ingrain the mythos into the regular life of teaching. Because if you have that and people are growing up and studying that, you don't have to tell them to go out and get in the sunlight. As children, they learn that they're descended from that ancestor. You follow? So now, that has to be paganism. You follow? There has to be paganism in the new ideology of the mutants. Because the mutants can't have you in power. Because if you're psychologically empowered, mentally, spiritually empowered, you're going to behave differently. All right? No one with activated melanin can be a slave. You have no desire to be that. Right? So now, what these Moorish scientists went back and discovered in their epic is they studied, well, if this stuff is coming from the sun, and they knew it came from the sun, and I proved it in other lectures, but I can prove it, they talked about photosynthesis in plants and people. All right? And if you want the exact surah, it's Surah 36, Yasin. You can look at around the 79th, 80th verse where the scientists in Islam and African Muslims were discussing photosynthesis thousands of years ago. All right? In plants and people. Modern scientists will tell you people don't go through photosynthesis. But they tell you that melanin is an absorber of light. Photosynthesis means to synthesize light. So people go through photosynthesis. That's my point. But only certain people go through it, so let's keep that quiet. All right? Rewind. We're going to keep some things open, some things quiet. And the quiet things are for us because we don't want them to know where their power is. All right. So, when we come back to understanding that our ancestors studied where melanin came from, they went beyond the sun and they studied the astronomy of the universe to figure out where this energy is being dispersed from. Right? So, any of you who read the last book I wrote on Islam, The Lost Pages of Islam, I'm not talking about Islam for the sake of religion. Please don't get confused. I'm talking about African history and what's been watered down so that you can not get confused. If you read that book, one of the things that I talked about is they set up a meditation or prayer system that's synchronized to what I'm about to talk about, where melanin is being dispensed from. Imagine that. Imagine knowing the times on Earth where the octaves or the energy is high enough for you to meditate, for you to have better absorption power of this force. And then setting your culture like that so that it's a regular part of your everyday life. Now the Muslims call that now salah. But what they're doing now, the Arabs are telling them when to do it. And timing in this earth is everything. So don't tell me you can pray whenever you want. You could. That means you don't even know what prayer and meditation is. Because you calling on God to stop something. Oh, please, God, help me pay my rent. That's not what meditation is for. Right? It's to put you in a certain state of balance so you can make decisions right. Not for a loaf of bread to fall from Mars. It doesn't happen like that. And when you pray in stress, you don't get nothing. Because that's a stress prayer. You pray in stress. Oh, please. Right. So that's not how the universe works. That's why your prayers are not being answered. Jesus answered my prayer, brother. No, you didn't. White folks answer. Don't get me into proving that. Give me a moment. We coming to it. So, my point is, our ancestors discovered where melanin was specifically being distributed from. Now, let me show you. The next time I'm going to show you is white folks are just getting caught up in 2012 on the knowledge of that astronomical information. All right. So in 2012, at the European Southern Observatory, they found out something that they've never found out. Now, how many of you have heard of black holes before? Until 2012, black hole was a theoretical term. But we talk about it like it's real, right? Scientists said, because as soon as somebody said scientists said, then they got you. But this time, they actually viewed it and videotaped an actual experience of a black hole. But this black hole is unique because it's at the center of the galaxy. And that means, just for your sake of your understanding of astronomy, everything that we are on is rotating around this little empty black void. So what happened in this particular case is that a gas cloud got caught in the gravitation of this, and there are about 16 stars that are rotating around this black nothing, right? And the gas cloud got sucked in. So they got a chance to videotape a gigantic gas cloud being sucked up into something and disappearing. Yeah, because to us physicists, that violates all laws. Because that means that this, whatever it is, has more force than these stars and this other object, but it's invisible. The only thing that we know that's there is a black nothing. Got it? So now the sun revolves around this galactic center, which means that point is the gravitational, it has the power to make the sun move. So that's where the sun is getting its energy from. Got it? So this information is in the Quran, in Surah Al-Najm, 53rd Surah. All right? And this location physically is called the Sagittarius A black hole or Sagittarius A portal, whatever. Now, if you want to understand when the Earth is aligned to it, the Earth is aligned to it for approximately 3 days from the winter solstice, which is December 21st and 22nd, to December 24th and 25th. Ha ha. Gotcha. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. Before that? Yeah, the alignment happens at the winter solstice. For 3 days, when the sun is sitting still on the solstice, that's when the Earth, the sun, this portal, and this other star we use for counting calendar Sirius are all aligned. Merry Christmas.
Hold on, December what?
December 20, from the winter solstice for 3 days. So that's about December 21st or 24th, or December 22nd sometimes, because it's on the 22nd, sometimes, to the 25th. Merry Christmas. They're stealing your energy. Go ahead.
Wouldn't that make that a most powerful time of the year?
Most powerful time of the year. But you see it, because you see the most energy, the most spending commerce. You see? So the people who took this over, specifically going back to George Washington, with the inauguration of Thanksgiving holiday season as a political instrument to say we're going to celebrate this, These were Masons who understood your stuff. See, they're dealing with cosmology as it's employed into daily activity, which is what we did. Meanwhile, we become the what? Consumers instead of understanding what's going on. So you can't understand, my point is you can't understand government without understanding universal law. You're just going to get kicked out of the room. Because other people who understand it, even if they're mutants, they're going to use it against you. And they're going to advertise their way into commerce, which is motion, energy, power. So this is...
They made a song to that effect.
Yeah.
It's the most wonderful time of the year.
Most wonderful time of the year. All right, so here we go. You belong on this tree. This is our tree of life. All right, so we have the energy of melanin coming from a specific point in the universe, being distributed to your local star. So your fuel is coming from that spot. Everything that's moving here, rotating, revolving, is rotating, revolving based on that one axis point. It's distributed to your local star, which means your local star becomes an agent of inducing your melanin power. The Earth's atmosphere absorbs it into its magnetic field, and photons are deduced basically into oxygen. Now this is going to make sense when I come to what destabilizes melanin. And then, of course, you have the water and the vegetation on Earth, which is also holding that receptive energy. So that's your diet. Your diet is the wild fruits and vegetables on the planet. The water that's in them. Listen, if you eat fruits and vegetables, you don't need to drink water. You buying all this water, you buying cases of water. I don't buy cases of water in my house. I don't even drink it. I can go 5 days without realizing that I haven't drunk water. And the only time I realize it is if I'm doing something that's required, like working out, and I realize, I'm going to drink some along with the fruits. All right? And there's a reason for that, too. If I was living in the tropics, I wouldn't have to do that. Aerobic energy becomes important. Aerobic energy just means oxygen-based energy and sunlight. So y'all see this table right here? Now, white folks can't fit on this table. Because they're immediately going to have a problem with the sun, with aerobic environments, with more water-based biologies, which they don't have, all right? And with the vital fruits on the planet. Now, you see these fruitarians who are white, most of them are supplementing with things to get more amines in their body, because it makes them sick. Let me say that again, slow down, so you can get what I'm saying. You're not going to have white fruitarians who don't vitamin supplement, because they need the nitrogen in their body. Guaranteed. So they'll tell you I need my B12, so I eat, all this fruit, but I got a B12 supplement. Yeah, because you need some fungus. Give me any white person, your friend, and give me 6 months with him. I'll put him on the best diet on the planet, he'd be dead at the end. He will. All right, y'all looking at me crazy like this. Crazy. All right, just keep watching. All right, so what should you eat? Prayer is food. Meditation is food. Sunlight, air, water from fruit. In non-tropical areas, domesticated vegetables are transition foods. Did you hear what I said? That's important. That might sound crazy, but we're doing the study so you can see this. Sprouted seeds, transition food, that's a good transition food. Sprouted grains, fonio, quinoa, transition foods. We need farms and we need return to tropical areas in order to deal with this nitrogen issue. Now, I'm going to explain this in more detail. All right? Transition. Stay away from seedless foods. We know that already. Stay away from non-organic fruits and vegetables. Now, some people will say, well, if it has a hard skin, please, don't give me that old, archaic teaching. Farmers rarely spray crops. All right? They get this stuff genetically implanted into the seed as far as pesticides are concerned so that they can save money. So when you eat non-organic foods, you're automatically eating pesticides. It's in the genetic structure of the plant. So please, if you're going to eat them, try your best. If you can't, I understand that. And you need to soak the food in liquid sodium bicarbonate or calcium bicarbonate, lime, in order to pull those pesticides out. You can get some rum with baking soda, pure alkaline water, and just soak the fruit for maybe, about a half hour, if you're going to eat it, mangoes or whatever, and it'll pull those pesticides out as much as you can get out. And the plant is working with you because I'm going to show you it's trying to pull those out. Do not eat cooked vegetables. If you are on this study, if you eat cooked vegetables and you're not on the study, I can't stop you. Or you're not on a certain diet. But cooking vegetables, it deteriorates the magnetic field of the vegetables, it kills them. All right, so you're losing the vitality of the plant. You can soak it in hot water. I have a way, people in transition, they come to me. I take pumpkins during the winter seasons. I soak them in really hot water. They get real soft. And then I get some more hot water, right? Boil it. And I make the pumpkin soup without cooking. Just put the pumpkin in the blender, boil it up hot, boil it up. Give them some black lava salt or Himalayan salt or something like that. They got a soup.
What do you mean? Within the whole pumpkin?
Yeah, I chop the pumpkin up,
Okay.
soak it in hot water for maybe about 2 or 3 hours. It gets soft.
Mm.
And then I take it out, put it in a blender, boil some other water, put it in, blend it up. That's for people who want transition. No. I just take the seeds and keep them. You know what I mean? If you want to do the pumpkin seeds, though, you can sprout them. Make sure they get soft, spongy, because you want to get the minerals. The soaking is so that you can absorb the minerals. All right? Squashes are fruits. The squashes and the pumpkins are good fruits for the winter for people who have never done this type of diet, because you're going to have these cravings going on. You lose it. And these are, I offer transition-based things to help you. Because you got to fool these parasites. You got to kind of negotiate with them a little bit when you got a lot of them. Because they tear you up. Right? And they will control your nervous system, your mind, and other things, have you hallucinate. Seeing hamburgers and stuff. All right. I won't go over that. Okay. Goals of the study: to disconnect melanin from the theory of it being an amine-based compound. I'm just doing that so you won't be going around talking about you need protein and amino acids. All right. And it's for the scientific issue, because I heard some teachers say that and we need to correct that. But
We're taking pictures now, but you have this somewhere we can, let's say like a book, somewhere we can have.
yeah, this is in this book. This
Oh, okay.
information that I'm talking about is coming from this book.
Oh, okay.
And I go into amines deeply in this. Amines, aka amino acids, in my thesis, have nothing to do with synthesizing melanin and melanin polymers. They are poisons that feed spores, yeast, fungus, bacteria, heterotrophic entities. That's important because you're going to get your doctor saying, you need to lift your amino acid count up. You need to, you got protein that you need. All right. Every Aboriginal that I've done a study on, I have this machine, and the machine was based. What it shows is our people have low protein in their liver, but it's supposed to be that way. We're not supposed to be building a lot of proteins in our liver, because what the liver does is it assimilates these amines and proteins to get kicked out of the body in the urea cycle. All right, and just for you. It's,
Well, just to interrupt, because whenever I went to the doctor, they would always ask, well, how come you have so much protein coming out?
yeah, your body's
And
trying
my
to kick
body's
it.
kicking the protein out, and they're making it an issue that, well, where is this coming from? Because to them, kicking out that protein to them is kind of like, you must have some type of infection or something going on. To kick
Yeah,
out
because you're not absorbing it.
Right.
You're not getting the nutrients absorbed.
Every time.
Yeah, and what that is the body's trying to get rid of it. The liver, specifically, is the organ. You study the liver. The liver is a detoxing organism, organ, as well as other things.
I just want to add one thing to that, because it's very interesting. I just went to the doctor and we're discussing what we're talking about now. And at the end of the conversation, he said, yeah, but you have to take protein, which was not understanding. And I told him, I said, every time I take protein, especially in overabundance amount of protein, like what you call a protein shake, I get protein poisoning. The liver starts to...
Yeah. Your urea levels are too high. So if I tested you, you test positive for urea, and
Not now, but yes.
yeah, I'm saying not now, but I'm saying anybody who did that, you would test positive for urea levels, and you need to get that out. How you get that out? You stop eating the stuff, the flesh, the starch, the other things, and some other things that you need to watch out for. All right, let's go. All right, so pathogens. Bacteria, fungus, yeast, etc. use nitrogen compounds to attack wild plants, animals, and humans. That's important because these things are in your nutritional yeast, your soy burgers, your diet cheese, your what else y'all eating, y'all vegans? Come on, I'm about to get y'all. Huh? Wheat gluten, yeah, what else? All this stuff. All right, this stuff, first of all, anything made from soybeans automatically has the phytase in it, and most of these, not a lot of bacteria, but high nitrogen content. Let me rewind a little bit. There's certain plants that are nitrogen fixators, right? Which means they're taking atmospheric nitrogen and they're producing ammonium or ammonia inside of them. The beans, the bean family, legumes are known for this. But a lot of domesticated plants do the same thing. It's called nitrogen fixation. You want to get the heirloom plants that don't do this. Because what happens to you is, you have roots in your body, but your roots are in your intestines. It's called the villi. Those are your roots. And that's where you're absorbing your food. And when you get high nitrogen levels, you begin to damage those villi so that they are not properly absorbing the proper minerals, and they have these nitrogen blockades in them, basically. And what's going to further happen is, because your blood is made from your food, you're going to start changing how your red blood cell is operating and developing ammonia transport systems. Basically, it just holes, all right, in the mitochondria of your blood. It's going to make your blood weaker, which is going to make you age quicker. So, all right, back to these nitrogen blood. The idea of the success of these pathogens is to make hydrophobic, which means areas that are dehydrated. All right, dehydration is key to get pathogens active and successful in your body. The more hydrated you are, they can't operate because they don't like water, like ammonia. All right. Okay. So hydrophobic, they like high nitrogen environments. They want to create fermentation, increase ammonium, and that's a technical word. I'll get to that, as we go forward. Dephosphorylation. All right. So to give you an idea, here's a study on tropical plants. All right, and I'm going to break down some of these terms, but you can write them down, screenshot them, because this is going to help you study. It's going to help you understand some basic things, and it's also going to help you understand why white people are so successful. When they come into these areas and they drop in the UN rice on people, and they come in and they destroy the ecosystem of these people, this is all a part of their plan to neutralize the power of the people. All right? Chemtrails, they spraying sulfur and nitrogen all throughout the hood. These people are on their business.
They're actually terraforming.
Exactly. So now, what we need to have is institutions that have done studies to prove that this is genetically dangerous to us. And if we have that, when we start studying the chemtrails and all that stuff, we don't have to we can actually bring lawsuits internationally, domestically, in our own jurisdiction and say, this is what these people try to do. They're trying to wipe us out. Scientific.
This is a shaky bake off.
There you go. There you go. When your children are going to school, they're feeding them high nitrogen diets to destroy their brains. This is genocide happening now, but because it's food, we just looking at it like, oh, at least my baby got some food. No, that food is destroying your child. Destroying his or her capacity. All right? And these folks know. So this is one of the examples. Nitrate reductase-dependent nitric oxide synthesis. Now, what this is basically saying, and the study is studying how pathogens are able to get into the roots of plants and how plants respond. Now, I'm going to prove to you that nitrogen is poison. And then, once that's proven, every nitrogen compound-based food you need to get away from. Which means you're going to be eating mostly fruits, if not all. Unless you live in a place, like the Congo or the Amazon, where you can eat some of the vegetation because it's no nitrogen in it. Let me rewind a little bit so I can give you an idea of what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, I'm saying a lot, but what I'm saying is this. When Francis Crick discovered DNA, it was a big thing. He won a Nobel Peace Prize for that. But There are certain plants and animals on this planet that don't have DNA. Got that? And if you look at the word DNA, what is this? What is the word? Deoxyribonucleic acid. Take the first part out. Deoxy. D-E-O-X-Y. What's oxygen? What's D? From. So any organism with DNA has a compound inside of its nucleotides where oxygen is being knocked out. This is important. So when they talk about your DNA, they will have to readjust the language because they already know that your nucleotides are different. That's how they know you're African and you're not. But they're not telling you the details of what's in it that's making y'all different. And what's in it is what's called a hydroxyl group or oxygen that's tied to a hydrogen that usually binds with carbon. And that's knocked off in these animals or mutants that don't have it, so they call it DNA. We have to either call it something else, come up with another classification, or understand what's going on. So when I go to talk about these non-nitrogenous, these plants that don't like nitrogen, they don't like nitrogen because nitrogen is not a part of their ecosystem. All right? Because nitrogen is an anti-solar gas and compound on this planet that came by way, we'll get to where it came from. I got that on here too. All right, so this is one of the bacteria, all right, Pseudomonas syringae. And this study, take a screenshot of it, all right, Tropical Plant Pathology, volume 35. But Tropical Plant Pathology. Now, why am I studying this? This is important because I'm telling you, I mean, we live in North America, but 5 generations, 10 generations from now, we don't want to be here. We want to find a way to get out of here, maybe. That's the best thing for us. We're only supposed to come to these areas when it's summertime.
So, one question towards that. Now, one of the things that is being said is that because of the rapid, crossing of the North Pole and South Pole and so forth, that the water level is rising. And they're saying that, especially like, I think there was some of the islands, some of the Micronesia islands, can't be inhabited anymore because the water is actually rising faster than they thought that it would rise because it's, the melting is taking place faster. So, that's another thing that we should be doing is looking for those areas which are best looked at. Like you said, in a few generations, if what is being said is true in terms of the water, and the water's going to be a lot higher than it used to, we need to find places or locate places where there's enough elevation that we can avoid moving to some place that is going to be under the water.
Yeah, we need to be in the lands with the highest sea level and the best vegetation. And the two places that we need to be in the place with the highest sea level, best vegetation, and the least amount of tectonic problems. And those continents are Africa and South America. Those are the only two. Africa is the most geologically stable continent on the earth. It's the largest plate, and you don't hear nothing about earthquakes in Africa because they don't have it. All right? So, I mean, that solved the problem. The problem is, a forward plan to understand what we're saying here. This is vital. We don't belong in non-tropical environments. First of all, let me just get to this one, and I'll get this down. All right, so let's read this. Nitrate reductase was recently shown to play an important role during phytopathogenic interactions. Now, nitrate reductase is a process by which, and you can look this up, a process by which once nitrogen is coming to a nodule on the roots, or it can get in, or a fungus like rhizobium can invade the roots of a plant. What the plant will begin to do is create nitrates, which means they take the nitrogen atom and they surround it with oxygen to neutralize it. That's the first step. So you have a nitrogen that's tied to 3 oxygens, and they'll call it nitrate. If the nitrogen is able to bind with something else to knock off one of the oxygens, it becomes more toxic. And the more it can get away from oxygen, the more toxic it becomes. All right, you got that? So the species of plants in the study, what they're showing is they try to neutralize it by first adding oxygen, then it starts adding carbon and oxygen compounds, melanin, to neutralize the nitrogen. That's important in these tropical plants. Right? Okay, let me keep on. By providing substrates for the synthesis of nitrogen oxide. A key, look at this. Look at what they say in the study. A key signal for plant defense responses. So that's just what I'm telling you. The plant responses, and in order to deal with nitrogen, it starts putting the stuff in it that has the electrical valence, let's say that, to neutralize it. In order to give additional support to this hypothesis, we compared nitrate oxide-mediated defense responses of wild types and nitrate reductase double deficient, and then this is the plant. Plants inoculated with the substance, the strain of Pseudomonas syringae, which is a bacteria, all right? And with genetically characterized avirulent or virulent strains of PSM, inoculation of wild-type leaves of AVR or IBS, but not virulent, stimulated no emission, as measured by the indicator. And look how long that word. Look at what is this? But you see what's there. Diamino. I'm saying this because there's easier ways to put these words. Like this word right here, diaminofluorescence. All right, so this is an amino acid compound basically. And they just putting all these words in. You can basically say amino acids that are taking away the combustion. You know what I mean? They gotta make all these words. No nitrate oxide emission induced by AVR was higher than that which is induced by IBS. I'm gonna just read through this and just explain it to you. Wild type plants display the hypersensitive response when infiltrated with strains of AVR or IBS, which is this Pseudomonas syringae macular which is a bacteria. All right? Do I have a cord over there? See that?
Many of us, going through the educational system we go through, we would not think that the additive, what is that? Not the prefix on amino, on diaminofluorescence. Mm-hmm. We wouldn't think that meant taking it away.
Right.
We would think that di meant two.
Right.
Because that's what they taught.
Right. Which is just etymology, words having multiple meanings. If you say degree or de, it can mean take from, it can mean, it has various meanings. But okay, let's find out where we were. All right, so the viral strain did not induce HR type in wild plants, and the leaves developed severe infection symptoms. All right, NIA1 and NIA2 plants did not show significantly increased NO emissions, nor did they develop hyperactive response to any of the analyzed strains of PSM, but displayed chlorotic lesions and higher bacterial growth in their leaves. So basically, the plant is getting cancer. All right. So it's either able to respond or it's not able to respond and is neutralized. So if you read through the study, take a screenshot of it. Get your dictionary out. And then use virulent and non-viral strains of this bacteria. But what is in the bacteria is important. What's in the bacteria that the plant is responding to, I'm going to show it to you as a molecular compound just to prove my point. All right. So, what toxins do they use? All right. Example is syringomycin. Syringomycin is a member of a class of molecules that are secreted by the plant pathogen Pseudomonas syringae, which is what I was just showing you, right? Let's go back. See that? Yeah. This was the plant used in the study. Now we go into the actual toxin that's inside of this bacteria. All right. Got that? All right. So what? What is this toxin that's inside of the bacteria? A closed ring of 9 what? Non-ribosomally synthesized what? Amino acids bonded to a fatty acid hydrocarbon. Tails. So that's the source of it. Take a screenshot of that just for your research. So what's happening is the poison that's actually in the bacteria that causes the plant lesions and other things is a 9 amino acid ring toxin with a hydrocarbon tail. The hydrocarbon is missing the oxygen. All right? That's important because that's what it's going to use for fermentation. All right, let me go to my next slide so you can see it. This is a what do we call this? Nuclear magnetic, X-ray chromatography of syringomycin E. This is what it will look like. Now you see all these letters in here? Keep in mind, when you see NH or NH2, that is an amino acid. So you see it, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. They even have some hydrogen and nitrogen bound. So you see it. So it has a whole bunch of amines as a part of its structure, and it's using the amines to penetrate into the roots of this plant to give the plant cancer. And this is a wild tropical plant that is trying to fight it or just succumbing to it with plant lesions. That's you with stage 4 cancer. Eating the diet, the SAD diet. That's important. So now you leave flesh and you become a starchitarian. So you're eating beans and rice, nitrogen out. So you're wondering why you're not getting better or feeling better, and that's why. So you go to soy and tofu, nitrogen out. And you're still not feeling better, right? So now you need to go through a healthier diet where you're eating predominantly more fruit and not cooking all your vegetables and figuring out how to make that diet. And that is the diet that will begin to get you off of the sickness. If you're eating the overcooked, vegan, starchitarian diet, you're going to be sick. That's important. So you can eat all the vegan pizza you want. You can take all the elixirs you want. It's not going to work. That cancer coming for you because these folks have this stuff genetically embedded into pesticides and fertilizers. We're under attack. So now, we need to know, all right, I'm going to show that. All right, here it is again. This is melanin. All right, now, this is just important for historical, scientific, whatever you want to do. Melanin is not made from tyrosine. It's not made from any of the amino acids that is said to be made from, because amino acids are nitrogen bound to hydrogen and they are anti-solar. How can a solar-based molecule be made from anti-solar-based amines? And who is it that's distributing this information? It's not the very technical scientists. It's the people who want to control chemistry and biochemistry, who want to feed you certain things. They have to say that. Melanin must be kept secret. Because if you find out, damn, I'm in North America, I don't have a farm, I'm being fed starch, flesh, okay, I'm going to get rid of that. Then the vegan people came to me and they told me to eat all this stuff. What we are saying is that if you go to a better diet, first of all, your hunger is going to go away because most of your hunger is coming from hungry parasites. They're very hungry. They are. And they give you that urge at the wrong time, 2 o'clock in the morning. What you doing hungry? Most of the time when you're hungry, all right, the best response is a melon or pure water. All right? Because you need to hydrate your body because they're doing a number of things. They're creating hydrophobic areas. So the body is craving what it needs and then they're craving what they need. So you're actually fighting against them. All right? Now melanin in this sense is working with macrophages. And what is it doing with the macrophages? The eumelanins, which are made from dihydroxyindocarboxylic acid, a diffusible intermediate in the biosynthesis of eumelanins. That's something that they do know. That carboxylic acids work with indoles in some kind of way they make melanin, but they still don't know. But it's not tyrosine. All right, that's just important. It's not. So you've been taught that this is important. The stuff is just it's ridiculous. You can go to the doctor and say your white blood cell count is too low. Right? Exactly. It's a good thing. But they might tell you that's a bad thing. And this is what you need to do. Take this, nutritionally this. If you know from the start that that's not a bad thing, then you won't follow that guidance. That's my point. Okay? But here, melanin is doing the same thing that those plant roots did. All right? It's increasing nitric oxide. But nitric oxide is only increasing because it's giving more oxygen or giving over more oxygen to these macrophages, which are funguses. White blood cells, macrophages, neutrophils, varying classes of funguses that eat dead cells. Great, you say, well, good, they need to clean up the dead cells, but they eat living cells too. They're a gang. They run around in the body like a gang, and they jump cells. They're bullies. Now, why am I saying this? Let me rewind to give you a better idea of why I'm saying this. You go to your local herbalist, he gives you some pills. He says, this is going to make you feel better, it has vitamins, minerals, and everything in it. And you take the pills. Rule 1, the pills are dehydrated. There's no water in them, which means they are not going to do anything until they get to the stomach. And when they get to the stomach, what they're going to do is start pulling all of your water to hydrate themselves so that they can pass through the digestive system. But in that process, what they're going to do is they're not going to be able to get enough, so they're basically going to be wasting. You're going to urinate and most of it out. And you're in the mindset and thinking that you're taking these pills because you're going to get better. And the herbalist is not telling you that you're not going to get better. Now, if you're really, really bad, off, you've been eating flesh or whatever, some of those little pills might help you out a little bit because they give you some minerals. But you're never going to see somebody who takes pills that kills cancer. Or cures or whatever you want to terminology you want to use. They got lupus or whatever, you're not going to take nobody pills to do that. Pills can't kill fungus, candida, and yeast. Why are you selling somebody a candida cleanse of pills? That's ridiculous. Anyone who knows science knows you have to have bioavailability with what you're eating, what you're taking in. If I eat a slab of meat, the meat has no water. There's no water in it. Or the small amount of water that's in it, and the other ammonia is going to dehydrate the body. All right? It's the same thing with these said supplements that people are taking. Supplements are supposed to be in water-based form. And if you're going to soak them in anything, soak them in something that kills funguses. Like sodium bicarbonate. That's an excellent liquid substance. All right? Those are carbon compounds. So the idea I'm trying to get over to you is carbon compounds is what neutralizes all the stuff, and it is what enhances your intelligence. Because you'll go back to Dr. Saban teaching us you're carbon-based, right, which is melanin. Melanin is just a carbon compound. Right? And it's because of the refracting power of carbon. Now they know this. Carbon is like, you know how you had the little prism and you run it through the prism and it breaks down into all the light? Well, carbon in your body is octahedral and hexagonal. It can literally trap the light, so it can't go anywhere. Right? So if you're eating carbon-based substances, you're going to increase the carbon, you're going to increase your immune system, you're going to increase all these things. Anybody who having problems, problems with your heart, problems with respiratory, just eat fruit. 7 days, I guarantee you, you'll see the difference. Just try it. 7 days straight. If you're not going to do the study, try 7 days straight. Only fruit. Don't eat the seeds, and just eat the fruit pulp. And just try it. Watermelon, cantaloupe, whatever. Apples. Just try it. Go ahead, watch out.
My understanding, seeds were an excellent part of it, like the watermelon seed.
Yeah, they are.
So why would you say don't?
Well, there's 2 reasons why I'm saying in the study don't eat the seed. In the study, I'm testing for a diet that is non-nitrogenous. All right, so the watermelon that you grew, and this is a part of understanding plants and watching them. When you grow watermelon, you have to add some fertilizer if you're going to domesticate it. So what type of fertilizers have been added to your watermelon seeds? You don't know. But the watermelon is smart because it's an old plant. And all plants are smart. Plants currently, because we can go far into this thing, but you have something called the ripening of the fruit. You know what the ripening of the fruit is?
Yeah.
The ripening of the fruit basically is the denitrification of the fruit. So that the fruit, as that part of the tree, is the only part that has no nitrogen in it. The skin will have it in it, because the skin is like the immune system, it's trapping the nitrogen. The seeds will have it in it, but the pulp of the fruit won't have it in it, and that is the most energetic part of the plant. That's the part that, gives you vitality. You can take in all the minerals. You don't even have to do anything. The minerals are bioavailable. So now, if you have a Congo watermelon that is grown in the wild in the Congo, that seed won't have any nitrogen in it. Now, what we're saying, what we should do is sprout the seeds in water. Why are you sprouting in water? Because you're going to get this nitrate reduction. What's going to happen is the seed and the water are going to get exactly, and it's going to bind the nitrogen up to oxygen so that you kill it, you neutralize it. So now you sprout some watermelon seeds, some pumpkin seeds, whatever. You're good, and you have it in a state where the seed is absorbing water, so you can absorb the nutrients. Because other than that, you can't get access to the minerals because they closed up.
Right.
And you're working your digestive tract harder, which is a whole other set of things. All right, so y'all follow me on the seed thing?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm saying, this is what I'm saying. If you want to eat the skin, that's fine. I'm saying I'm doing a study to see whether that is best or not. Because I've done a study on myself where I was doing that. So now I'm doing a study on myself and others where they're not doing that. Because of where we live, again, you have to understand why skin is put on the fruit. It's to protect it, to hold it together. But in these environments with fertilizer and other things, these skins are holding the toxins. All right? They're holding the toxins, literally. Who said that? All right, look. Look, all right, so people been eating skins, and I see, I'm just saying we're going to do a test, but they not. You know what I mean? I'll test people who eat skins of everything. If y'all want to just eat skins, just peel the skin off, and we can eat skins for a week, and I can test to see whether your mineral absorption levels are going to decrease, and I guarantee that they will. Now, let me use some sense. Anybody got children, you can watch your children. My children, I'll slice up some apples. My son eats 2 right now. He'll eat the inside of the apple and won't eat the skin. Or he'll spit the skin out. And I'll say, Amaru, why you don't like the skin? I don't like the skin. His intuition is so high. You see what I'm saying? My son has never ate flesh or nothing. He don't eat none of that stuff. But I'm watching him, and I'm saying, yo, I used to do that when I was little. You see what I'm saying? Now, I'm not saying, what I am saying is that I think that's an intuitive response to where we live in time and space. I've been in tropical places, and I can't lie. Mangoes in Jamaica were so good, I could actually eat the skin. And it was crazy because the vitality was there. I used my senses instead of just trying to use all this technical stuff, but I think it was because of the location. So what I'm saying is tropical fruits, and I showed you some responses of it. Tropical fruits have a whole different ecology going on, but we don't live in the tropics. I think that it would be good if you were eating skins in the tropics. And it's because of the level of UVB light that you're getting inside of your body, which is going to make your whole system, the endocrine system is going to be different.
And the food in the tropic grows seasonal anyway.
Say it again?
The food in the tropic grows seasonal.
Yeah. What is going on? Somebody trying to... You invading my computer. I got you. I caught you. You trying to pair it to my computer. I actually trying to download all my stuff. You need to pair it to my computer for something?
So you're also saying that with fruits, domesticated fruits, that the fruits, its intellect is holding the bacteria, like the negative stuff in the seed and the skin. So if you eat the skin and things like that, it's feeding what's in you already.
What I'm saying is that there's some mineral absorption problems that you're going to have. Whenever you have amines, they block absorption of minerals, or your body's going to be working its defense system using its carbon to fight it off. Follow me? Yeah, so the study that we're doing right now is to test to see whether we can reduce that. And if we're reducing that for long periods of time, what will your body look like? How will it respond?
Yeah.
What will your intelligence look like? What will your memory look like?
The reason why I said what I said about the skin is because I'm part of the study right now, and I just wanted to do the right thing.
Yeah, if you're in the study, don't eat skins or seeds. Don't eat them. If you've never had this diet before, don't do what I just said. Because I don't want to throw your body into shock. I want you to go through your transitions properly. All right? So if you are a starchitarian, I don't want you to go directly into it. Take the first month and use your transition period and maybe eat some fruits and vegetables, which we have in this book. I got a diet, a transition diet in this book and this book. I got a transition diet that you can go for maybe 15, 20, 30 days or whatever, and then work your way into it. So by the time you get to the second month, yes. Both of these books have transition diets in the classes A through F. So that you can get yourself to the point in the second month where you can go all fruit. But don't do that immediately. Give yourself an incubation period of at least 15 to 30 days. And gradually do that. If you've been eating flesh, you got to start with something else. You know what I mean? Class C. Because I don't want you to throw your body into shock. You got to treat your body. Listen, there's nothing in this universe that's important that was not developed patiently. Look how long it takes to make a star before you get to a solar system. So if you're rushing into anything, you're rushing into a wall. All right? Nothing valuable is made in patience. All right, so a few more slides and I get to all these questions. All right. So this is hypoxia. Now, I'm showing you what the body is doing chemically so you can see what's going on. The body is adding oxygen to nitrogens, but if it's adding oxygen to all these nitrogens, that means it's losing oxygen in other areas. So if you reduce eating the food that have all this nitrogen or amines in it, you get to keep that oxygen. And this is one of their boys who won a Nobel Peace Prize. He wrote a book called Metabolism of Tumors, and he demonstrated that all forms of cancer are characterized by two basic conditions: acidosis and hypoxia, which is lack of oxygen. You lose your oxygen. You're eating non-aerobic foods. All right? Crackers. What is a cracker? There's no cracker tree. Brother, these vegan crackers. See? They got you. Vegan crackers. Now, why does your body want to eat that? Because your body they're telling you, these little parasites are telling you to dehydrate your body. And put this wheat in it so I can get something to ferment. Because I need something to ferment in order to exist. And they're fighting to exist inside of your body. So you got all these urges. You see what I'm saying? So now, the 10 virtues of Kemet become real. You can't just be out on the sidewalk talking Maya. Get in one of these fasts. Let's see how strong you really are. You know what I mean? It's easy for us to be strong and big and, we had a lecture and we baking and whatever. Put niggas on a 3-month fast, nobody show up. Nobody don't want to be in the building. Nobody doing push-ups and talking about how strong they are when it's time to fast. Niggas run into the Amines shop. Protein me up. I need 30 gallons. Alright, so auto warburg. Alright? These are the same stuff about cancer and hypoxia. Alright, so I can test you for hypoxia. I can tell how your body is the levels of hypoxia with these tests that we're going to be doing. Alright? So basically, check this out now. Remember the table that I showed you? Dr. Warburg has made it clear that the prime cause of cancer is oxygen deficiency. Dr. Warburg discovered that cancer cells are anaerobic. Remember the chart I showed you? Alright? Anaerobic. So that even goes into exercise. If you want to exercise properly to build muscle mass properly, you have to breathe. You have to learn how to exercise through breathing. Otherwise, you're going to build up lactic acid, which is not building muscle. All right? See what else we got here. So y'all got that. All right. So now, where did all this nitrogen come from? There's no white folks that can tell you what the answer to that question is. You have to go to indigenous records on this planet to find out. There's some studies that have been done, like this one on the super eruption of Lake Toba. Did it cause a human bottleneck? Anybody ever heard of what a human bottleneck? Heard the term human bottleneck? You know what that is? That's when you have a catastrophe on the planet and it causes populations to, who didn't die in the catastrophe, to migrate to areas that are safe. And because of that small amount of people that you have there, they have to repopulate the area, or usually their genetics become similar. All right? So when you hear the out of Africa theory, the out of Africa theory is actually a bottleneck theory. That's where it should be placed. All right? Because to believe that, first of all, to believe that human life evolved on one continent, you have to believe that human life came from monkeys. Or you have to offer another explanation for how human bodies develop on an orb. How does a plant, or animal, or a human being evolve if the planet descended as a gas cloud from a star? Where do the animals come from? How did the first animals get on the earth? We can't answer these questions in white theses and hypotheses. All right? They're not going to tell you how the intelligence in the universe developed the star in an ordered fashion. Because that means that there's an intelligence that can plan and design. I ain't taking take you to no spook god, but I'm telling you it's intelligence. All right? So my point is everything follows the order. You don't go from nothing to a star, to orbs developing from that star, to organisms developing on those orbs without a supreme intelligence in this universe. Can't get that. That's too specific and orderly. So when you have these bottlenecks in history, what white folks are doing is they avoid connecting cosmological studies to terrestrial studies. So now cosmology has to be a different subject, and then we're going to insert evolution and say we all came from monkeys. They're doing that because they know you wrote about those monkeys and where they came from. Because those monkeys came after people, and those monkeys were only deformed people. And those monkeys are now walking around on the planet calling themselves racist. All of them except the ones with nappy head and melanated skin. These are the only ones that are natural. The rest of them are devolved mutants, and they came from monkeys, Planet of the Apes. Now, they know this is true. Check this out. But, just for your study, I've shown you in Melanin lectures the sulfur basis of their cells, the sulfur and nitrogen basis of their cells. How did they get sulfur? Ask yourself a question. We all on the same earth, right? We got cells that are selenium-based, melanin-based cells. They have sulfur and nitrogen-based cells. How come their cells are different than ours? Okay, let's answer the question. There was a volcanic explosion that was the greatest explosion that's been noted in history in Lake Toba. All right, the super eruption of Toba has been closely linked to a peak in sulfur oxide. All right, in the ice core. So they go down in the core, the ice at the poles, and they find different levels of it in time, and they'll say, wow, why is all the sulfur at this level? What happened on the earth at this time to create a whole bunch of sulfur in the atmosphere? All right, and it's been proposed that the impact of the world's climate caused by the eruption of Toba was considerable. Ice core data showed that the weather was cooler for several centuries after the Toba eruption, possibly due to the large amount of stratospheric sulfur aerosol ejected by the volcano. So the volcanoes erupt sulfur into the atmosphere. So that means that these people who have sulfur-based anatomies are post-Lake Toba organisms. Got it? All right, so we're going to make some sense out of these, finding out where these folks come from. All right? So the rest of that just gives sources or whatever. Here you have, I'm showing you where Lake Toba is. Now, we did the last genetic field of a black planet tour, and I'm closing on this point so we can go home. we showed where the rhesus monkey came from. The rhesus monkey comes from the same area that these explosions happened in. And the rhesus monkey has been proven to be biologically compatible with the European races, or Europeoid races. So, brain biochemistry, blood biochemistry. Even if you take a rhesus monkey and shave him, he's a pink little thing running around with a tail. Look like a little white child with a tail. But they're trying to say you come from monkeys. Now, our people wrote about these. The Moors called them Kiradit. And they say that they were from the cursed people. That people were cursed and converted or changed into Kiradit. In India, the Indic black civilizations called them Vanara. All right? In Kemet, we call them Kapi.
In the civilizations, don't they have some of the carving?
Yeah.
Monkey gods.
Yeah, the monkey gods.
That's them.
That's them. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's them. Yep. Exactly. What we call them in history is Amines. Australopithecus afarensis, all these other species that's supposed to be the in-between, go-between between man and ape.
That they show.
Yeah, exactly. No. All right. Now, monkeys will eat other monkeys. Chimps will eat other chimps. Rhesus monkeys eat other, they are cannibals, right? Which monkey has the most melanin? Right. What does he eat?
Bananas. Vegetation. Fruit.
Wild fruits and vegetables. Isn't that interesting? The strongest animal in the jungle eats fruits and vegetables. And the cannibal ones, the weaker species, they have less melanin, they're wild and less organized, and they're weaker. I'm just saying. Have niggas been turned to monkeys? Chimps? You see what I'm saying? I would rather be the gorilla of the planet than the chimp. We scattering around. My point is, these folk have taken us out of our power. I'm not trying to call us gorillas. We need some guerrilla warfare, though.
So is it true that the gorilla got more DNA strands?
I don't know if they have more DNA strands, because I ain't never tested their DNA. I don't believe nothing white folks say until I can do enough research to see. I have a history that we were given about the gorilla, and that was just based on the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. We would have to back that up with some records or something, but he basically stated that some of our people were taking these people and trying to graft them or whatever. Once they became monkeys, and tried to graft them back into the original people, and the closest that they got was the gorilla. They tried to turn some of these monkeys back into black people. And the closest they got was the gorilla. Now, that's an interesting teaching. That's all I got to say. It's interesting. I never took a monkey and fed it a melanin diet, but maybe we can try and see what we get in the third and fourth generation.
What do you have to say about the food hydrogen peroxide?
Food grade hydrogen peroxide? I would say that the body makes hydrogen peroxide itself.
I just wanted to ask. I see the cell.
I think it's a good external cleaner. It's, if you want to clean your fruits and stuff with it, soak it in it, clean it.
They're using it internally.
Huh?
They're using it internally for cancer patients.
I wouldn't do it. Because your body already makes it. So, your body makes that in the mitochondria of your cells. So I don't know. I'm big on letting the body do what it does and supplying it with what it needs to make what it needs.
At one time, there was, let's say, a discussion of us being able to eat the whole pulp, the skin, and let's say plants, like the leaves or maybe the root of the fruit.
Right.
Right? Now we're just eating the pulp of the fruit.
Wait. In the study.
Okay.
All right? I need to keep qualifying myself. I'm not trying to tell you what to eat. I'm doing a study based on where you're at to see what is the most efficient diet.
And speaking of, the mitochondria is supposed to vibrate at a certain nanometer.
Right.
to get it to vibrate at that particular nanometer, we have to take off the skin. We have to take out the seeds, and we have to just only eat the pulp.
That's my thesis. Where we live at on the planet right now, because we're not in the tropics. That's my thesis. If we're gonna live in North America in these areas, that's my thesis that we would have that diet as the best diet.
Go the extra mile with that.
Again, I understand what he's considering, but for we who came here late, like see my size here right now, when I left, I came here in my 30s, I didn't have an ounce of fat. Not even an ounce. Right? Both of us the same place, right? And we used to eat food in season, and the only time we eat meat before meat become a big thing, it used to be fed to us on a weekend, Sunday. And then on summertime, we never eat cooked food, only fruits. Because there are so many fruits to eat.
Exactly.
Your parents never used to cook.
Yeah.
And then my kids right now have to ask to go outside. Back home, as soon as it get dawn, you're outside in the sun whole day. They have to come find you.
All day.
So what he's trying to tell you is the test he's doing is in this environment.
Yeah, in this
You know?
environment.
So a lot of people ask many questions because it have fruits in the island that a lot of people never even see here. And the way how we get it in season. Like it have something named Gugu Beth. You understand? It come from a pica tree. When you bust the shell, you eat the inside. You don't even eat the outside. Then it have tanka bean. You take your teeth, you peel the skin and shoot. You eat around, you throw away the seed. And you try just mental. You never even think about eating the seed. You spit it out. You get a guava. You eat the guava, you peel the skin, eat the inside, spit out all the seed. You eat a grape, you spit out the seed, the skin. That was something normal to us. That wasn't even like, you didn't even have to come to a class to You know, cane, we go, if you live in down the road and you have cane and we don't have, we get up like tell everybody we're going down by the thief cane. We break the cane, we even take it to take it back home, we eating it in the field, bust the cage, shell it with this, take off the skin, eat the inside, bust the knob, throw it. Yeah, so we didn't even have to come to a class to be taught how to eat.
Right, exactly. Yeah, it's like going to church and learning about God. We don't have that kind of conversation. You learn about that stuff at home.
Yeah.
But we in a synthetic environment, so we doing these things to try to come back and come to some resolution on these things. So y'all see, sulfur-based anatomies, we know that these people, they're mutants. We don't have to keep talking about that. I have a lot of more stuff here. I'll go through this one. This is this one. How can I say this without? All right, so Africa, as a continent, is on the most stable plate on the planet. Let me say that first. All right, so these are the plates. All right. Now I'm saying this for a reason, because in indigenous records, they talk about cataclysms that crack the earth. And when you study the oceans, they're water systems, but the oceans are not natural water systems on this planet. It's supposed to be seas and it's supposed to be fresh water. All right? So what's happening in the ocean, the reason why it's salty, is because at the crevice marks of these particular places in the cracks, it's releasing minerals directly into the water. All right? Oxide, in the oxide state. A mineral in this oxide state is like rocks. So what a plant will do is take those minerals, assimilate it into a structure so that we can eat it. It's bioavailable. But we have the oceans like they are now, and when you talk about global warming and these things that are happening on the planet, it's been a steady thing that's happening. This is called the thermohaline cycle. The thermohaline cycle is how the water is moving, all right? And the salt, as more salt is released into it, the waters have been slowing down over the thousands of years. So much so, at the last major thing that happened in the thermohaline cycle is the creation of the Sahara Desert. All right? The Sahara Desert was created because of earth environmental factors, but they are now connecting it to possible cataclysms. But our ancestors already talked about some of these things. I've done a lecture on this when I did the Star Prophecy lecture. I went into some of this. But my point is that the best environments for vegetation are South America, South and Central America, and Africa. That's where you have the best vegetation on the earth. Period. Those are the safest places. They have the most water and have the best vegetation. And the most animal life. Because you have to have ecology going on. You know what I mean? We live in a place where they can just spray stuff and kill insects and thousands of them, and you don't know how that affects everything else in nature. Because those insects are doing something. They're not just there doing nothing. You know what I mean? Okay, let's do the 2020. Okay. Let's see if I had anything else. All right, I didn't have anything else. But my point tonight is that you don't need protein. You need to get away from amine-based substances. And if you ever are in a situation where you get sick, the best thing for you to do is to do a fruit fast to heal yourself of that particular ailment. That's the best thing you can do. If you take herbal supplements, make sure that the herbal supplements are not soaked in alcohol, they're not in powder form, and they're not in pill form, because they're not going to do anything for you. All right? You take herbal supplements that are, if the herbs and the compounds are there, they are soaked in bicarbonates, water, something like that, but not alcohol, not powders, those things are not going to do anything. All right. The other things are grains. You want to eat grains, soak them. Why you want to soak them? Everything is about bioavailability. All right. And we live in temperate and cold environments sometimes. So without the sun helps us digest food. We don't know that, but the sun helps us digest food because of the level of energy that it gives our cells and our mitochondria. It speeds up what's being called ATP. But we don't live in those environments. All right, so you need to do these things. You're going to eat seeds, you need to soak them. Make the stuff bioavailable. You can eat those things. I don't know what this stuff is. But question. Let's go ask some questions about what's going on.
I see why the Europeans living in Africa and trying to take over Africa, yet a certain part of Africa. I was listening to Bobby Hemming, and he was explaining why they were there and building their heaven.
Yeah, they're there for resources, and they're there, and in South America. The Bushes are buying up land like crazy on the Amazon because there's a water shortage on this planet. That's a whole other issue. And what they they're going to, and they're going in these areas and they're using race-specific organisms, biological, Ebola.
Yes.
Right? So the Ebola outbreak, people see what's going on. The only reason that Ebola is effective is because people are eating bush meat and toxic diets. If they were on the diets of their ancestors in those areas, they wouldn't get sick. It depends on the person. I'll have to look at their birthday. I do a lot of stuff by more detail, but I would definitely get the other stuff out. There's a plant, it's a seed in Africa. It's called Garcinia cola. It's used for what we're calling Ebola or respiratory type things. You can look that up. They can plant medicines. The science of herbology is a very critical science because we study the plants because what the leaves have in them is the ability to neutralize amines. So we cooked the herbs and we did certain things and we did these things because they could neutralize these toxic bacterial infections. And all bacteria use nitrogen compounds to poison you. Once you know that, and then you know what neutralizes these things, it's no more guessing. You see what I'm saying? Then you make sense out of the traditional medicine that's been handed down for thousands of years, because even though you're taught that it's not scientifically based, it is. Our ancestors handed down stuff generation after generation after generation, because when you study the human body, it's a simple thing to study. You can only attack it and, make it sick certain ways. And there's certain ways that you can heal it. So if I was treating Ebola, I would use some of the traditional plants, because there's a lot of traditional plants for respiratory type illnesses in Africa. And get rid of, because most of the places that this is happening is cities where they're adopting Western religion and Western diets and Western medical philosophy. You see what I'm saying? It's a curse. It's a curse.
Ruby. Go ahead, man.
Good, Colin.
So we should stay away from stuff like kombucha and sauerkraut.
Yes. Absolutely. Kombucha, the kombucha drinks and probiotics
Yeah.
type stuff.
Stay away from that.
Yeah, you don't want to be involved in that.
Chlorella too, right?
Huh?
Chlorella.
I don't deal with chlorella. I would if you're going to deal with that, it is a chlorophyll-based substance. It's been domesticated, but it's better than spirulina.
Yeah, but I noticed when you take
Better than spirulina?
I noticed from just how you do observation, I noticed when you take it, like it multiply the yeast inside of you. You know, but you don't want to say to people, because a lot of people use it, but I noticed when you use it, like there's just a big explosion of yeast explosion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so that's what I'm saying. When you do that particular natural algae, is supposed to be a chlorophyll A-based substance. Spirulina is cyanobacteria, so it would definitely proliferate the yeast and fungus. But chlorella is marketed and it's domesticated, so you don't know where these people are growing this stuff at. You know what I mean? And what they're using, they could be using cloning. You know, we don't know until we take it. And then if you see a proliferation of yeast, it's a sign. It's not, you know, what they're saying it is as far as, you know, coming from nature. They have taken that thing and cloned it and, you know, that's what they're doing.
Well, speaking of, when you're talking about the cloning process, right? They have this thing called, enzymes, we all know, you know, they basically help the body, help the cells as far as fuel. Am I right? And now, am I right or wrong? As far as enzymes concerned.
When you start dealing with classification, I can't broad stroke it because there's 1,000 different enzymes that have been named. Some of them are hormones, some of them are funguses.
Well, this one is, in particular, the CRE recombinase. I don't know if you heard of it. It's supposed to be able to, I guess, neutralize the body when it comes to viruses and things like that. I was just doing a little research, and it was talking about the DNA sequencer as far as in this recombinase, and the fact that it's supposed to be able to cut out certain sections of the DNA that's infected with the virus, and actually cut it out to be able to attach the good DNA back to the strand somehow.
Okay. All right, so you're dealing with a whole subject, which is recombinant DNA. Recombinant DNA is something that has become a major part of cloning because of how they study how organisms can use recombinant DNA. This is how I can best answer this. If you ask molecular biologists, have they ever seen in vivo chromatin or chromosomes, the answer would be the same for all of them. No. So scientists don't know what chromosomes look like when they're in living cells. They only know them from spores, funguses, yeast in vivo, and after they take a human cell and put it in a petri dish in vitro. They don't know what your chromosomes look like right now in your body, and they'll never be able to see that inside of a living cell unless they have some kind of extra powerful technique with chromatography that they don't have now. You have the amount of power that you would need to take a picture of something like that is like immaculate. So, with that being said, all of the experiments that they're talking about with what they're talking about, they've done those experiments on funguses, bacteria, and yeast, in petri dishes, and human cells in petri dishes. So they don't. When you do that, and you try to apply it to a living body, you just violate it because you don't. It's now a theory. You see what I'm saying? So now, an enzyme clipping out a part of something bad and adding in something good. I don't think that the body needs to cut and paste like that. I don't know. I've done a lot of studying on the body. It doesn't make sense to me. What the body will do is build up structure naturally, and if something is inside the body that doesn't belong there, it will attach itself to it and then move itself to one of the waste places to get rid of it. You start cutting out something and adding something in, it sounds a lot like white people. Cut and paste. Like, why is this enzyme cutting this? And then I have another thesis on, just on based on the fact of energy. You know how they show you chromosomes and it's all separated, you got all these X's? No chromosomes could possibly look like that inside of a nucleosome or a nuclear part of a cell.
So how did they get that diagram then to show us? Like,
That's just chromatography. That's just taking a picture of it after the cell is dead. It's been through apoptosis. So everything is scattered. The only other time that they've been able to see chromatin or chromosomes is at mitosis. And at anaphase, they all line up in the middle, the chromosomes, because they get pulled magnetically to two different parts to create two daughter cells. But that shows you chromosomes are controlled through magnetics, even when they're doing mitosis, which means that if they're controlled by magnetics, they have to be spinning in something, in the fluid. So if they're spinning, they're going in circles some kind of way. So that would be more of a theoretical thing. I think they already know, and it makes sense that anything, like it's like a car or something. If you have something spinning, it has to have an axis, it has to have a stator and a rotor or whatever. So that's probably how chromosomes look inside of cells. So, but cutting and pasting that, it doesn't make sense. You know what I mean? That sounds like spores invading something, clipping out something because they're about to eat, and inserting their DNA, which is what viruses do.
yeah.
See, but there's some spores that eat other spores. So if you have an enzyme that works with other enzymes to rid a virus, it doesn't mean that's good in the body, it just means that they're eating each other. Cannibalism, pretty much. You know what I mean? And that's two. You can hear some of these concepts and use your intuition, that doesn't even make sense. You know what I mean? And then recombinant DNA was a part of how they started these cloning processes. I do know that that process could happen naturally because when you got recombining going on, you got infection, and something has to happen. But just do your studies on recombinant DNA, and you'll see that that's how they are able to get pesticides inside of a seed's genetics and not have to spray the plant. It's through recombinant DNA. They know these enzymes like E. coli will take those things to certain places. And because they want to proliferate, they'll slice this part out and insert this for their own well-being.
That's like soy, am I right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, question. All right, so we should be approaching 10 o'clock. I think we need to go home, right?
I want to ask you about, is there such a thing as powdered copper?
Say it again?
Is there such a thing as powdered copper that you can consume in your body?
Powdered copper?
Yeah.
I wouldn't consume powdered copper. Because it's an isolated mineral and the body needs the minerals in the complex, and the intelligent way that we're given that is in a plant, because you can never reproduce that. So people who take colloidal silver, monatomic gold, isolated copper, you are doing your body a disservice because it has to find a way to attach the copper to all kind of other mineral complexes to make it functional in the body.
Is yogurt detrimental to melanated people?
Say it again?
Yogurt, is it detrimental to
Yogurt? Probably so, because it probably has some type of microorganisms in it. It's usually fermented, something fermented. Two more questions and then we're going to get out of here.
I'm gonna go back to the beans.
Beans.
You mentioned copper. And in Jamaica, my family, I know that there was a transition in the Asians. A lot of the Asians to change up the beans and make kidney beans a staple where it's more of their staple. Like they took the bunga, we call it bunga beans. And it has copper in it. What is that still, I mean, when it comes to, I know you say like soaking beans.
Right, again, you're dealing with a tropical bean that I don't know anything about, so I really can't speak on it. I'm dealing with domesticated beans outside of the tropics, which is a whole other animal, because they're nitrogen fixators. I don't know if that plant is a nitrogen fixator, it's probably not, if it's growing in the tropics. So you got a whole bunch of beans that are in the tropics that don't apply to what I said today about beans. You follow me? There's all kind of beans in the tropics. It's beans, to increase your vitality. It's just all types of stuff. So I can only really speak on the environment that I'm in, knowing from planting and doing stuff that certain things are out of order. Yes,
So what's wrong with bananas?
oh man. Cavendish bananas? They're all clones. Bananas are supposed to have seeds. Yeah, absolutely. They're supposed to have seeds. That's it. If you open up a banana, you're supposed to see the traces. So you go to other parts of the earth in the tropics, you see those seeds are bigger.
Organic?
Yeah, you can see them. So bananas have high potassium in it, but those Cavendish bananas that everybody has are clones of each other. And when you start dealing with cloning,
Even the organic one.
organic just means that they use a proper fertilization technique that was chemical. In a sense. They probably use some type of green manure or something. 50-50. All right, every night we do 50-50.